Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first episode of I don't know what it's called yet, where we dive into the exciting world of SC Blitz League action. I'm Wayne, and joining me today is my co-host Lem.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, so this will be our very first episode. So the whole idea of this that Lem and I talked about is where we want to take some time to ask each other, how's the community going, how the league is going, but also ask the what if questions. These what if questions is to really generate some type of conversation going, you know, dig into some any insights that we may have, and also just playfully guess certain scenarios and predict scenarios that has never happened before. Anything I might have missed, Len?
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We can have some fun scenarios. We can get some feedback from the community on other interesting things that we can talk about and ask. These also don't need to be like strictly what if. We can what if questions. We can be asking like some hard hitting questions too. Spice it up, rile up the troops, so to speak.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be a fun time.
yeah, and the great thing is if people are enjoying this type of audio content, then maybe we'll have guests like yourselves to come join us once in a while. So without further ado, Lam, let's kick things off with our season just finished. Season two just finished. The playoffs are about to get started. What were your thoughts of season two?
I think season two was in a lot of ways much more exciting than season one. Obviously, we had more competitive teams, we had more available players, um, we had more parity, even though some teams' records weren't too great. But every game was winnable mostly by each team. We had a lot more, I think, subs getting played, a lot more play time for the newcomers to the league. Overall, just like every aspect seemed to be um, much more dynamic, fun, and exciting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the league, we had a lot of expectations coming into the season for it to be competitive, and I think we pretty much nailed it. I think there were a few surprises. I feel like there were a few, um, I guess, easily predictable scenarios. We had some drama, and
A little
and
bit.
now we got some playoff competition going on. So yeah, it should be exciting. How about the awards? Anybody surprise you this season?
So thank you for reminding me about the awards. I still gotta set up that survey for us to fill out. But I think we had a few big surprises. One, Duxer's commanding abilities everywhere on the field, offense, defense, and at multiple different positions. I think he's looked awesome, especially since he's basically a newcomer to Blitz. Um, and on the other side of the spectrum, someone kind of more raw, MA on our team on the Huevos Picantes. Um, I think he surprised all of us and learned extremely quickly, and super proud of him.
Yeah, I agree with both MA. It's nice to see his progress. Shout out to Sin. You got some work to catch up on, but there's always next season. Your comment about Ducks, I think not only all the things you just mentioned, but also managing that team of personalities, right?
Oh
And
yeah, I have no idea. It's like herding cats or whatever the phrase is.
yeah,
I mean, keeping Prism and Ocho in line and now Sin, and oh my God, it's just too much.
don't forget the Cutler, trading him back. I mean, signing him back.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yes, yeah, it's been interesting season for sure. Um, I guess from my side, surprising, I would say, and this is just obviously bias here, but it's nice to see Blue Squid be as active as he has been this season. I know there's a asterisk to his rookie or whatever because he's been around since pretty much most of us have since we came back. But it's nice to see his improvements. And I think in general, just Cutler's pipeline of new recruits. It's nice to see a lot of these guys sticking around. Because I think last season, feel like at least half of them would disappear eventually.
Yeah, I think you're right. Jay Cuddy's Academy is a vaunted blitz educational um, system, and I think we got to get this man in this booth here to talk to us at some point. Um, he's done a great job for the community. He's found great people to play with, and yeah, I can't give him any. I can't stop giving him accolades.
All right. So I guess this is the part where we should dig into our questions. How about I'll start you off?
All
Um,
right.
my first question to you, Lem, is since the season is now over and we're entering the playoffs, um, you guys are playing um, the Phoenix D, right?
Yep.
Um, so I think they've been trying to hint that their lineup will be Jeff at QB, CJ at wide receiver, and Dan at RB. However, because we're trying to play the what if game, well, at least I'm trying to play the what if game. What if Dan was the QB, wide receiver is Jeff, and Kurt is the running back? How do you think your team matches up against him?
So the it's a tough spot to be in because both lineups are pretty good. Jeff has improved. I do think Dan overall is the superior quarterback. Um, but if it ends up being that Dan is QB, Jeff is wide receiver, and Kurt is running back,
CJ, sorry, CJ at wide receiver.
oh, CJ wide receiver. Sorry, I think I forgot if you said Jeff or CJ. That would be a very tough matchup to go against. Kurt might be like a little rusty because he doesn't play all the time, but he's always a top tier vet player anyway. Um, it would be tough. We would definitely need to have all of us locked in on the spicy eggs, um, and we would just need to be played no error defense and make sure we can take any opportunity we can get on offense.
Fair enough. All right, just because I need a little bit more. What do you think the score would be of that game? If your projected team is, you know, Smith, Tony, yourself versus that squad I just mentioned, what would you predict that score to be?
So, the spicy egg in me really wants to just say we'll blow them out of the water. But realistically, while we have a great lineup, Smith has been MIA for a little bit of time, and he needs some uh, more time to shake off that rust. But if he gets that rust shaken off, I think we can actually win that game and um, make it a tight game, something like a 22-21, and we decide to go for two to on the last play of the game to win it.
I like that. I like that. I want to see that actually. Like go for the win, especially in a playoff scenario.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right, cool. All right, you're up.
So you can think about Finn's world as Finn's world, but I think we all really know there are some quotes around, air quotes around that Finn's world. And as you are the shadow commissioner of the league, I think you're also the shadow captain. So if you were the real captain of Finn's world, how might you approach your week 3 game, and how do you think you'll differ than Finn?
Week three, that means we were playing, I'm guessing, the Toronto Triple Triples with Cutler in that lineup. Is that what
Uh,
you said? Week three, right?
no, no, I said you're. Uh, I think I said you were seed 3, and you're playing like for your upcoming playoff game.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah.
I heard
No, it's
week
okay.
three. Okay.
I might have misspoke. That's my bad.
Okay, okay. So you're saying that if I was captain, how would I approach this upcoming playoff game against Monopoly Men?
Yes.
Gotcha. Uh, okay. Well, yeah. If I'm captain, and given the performance that I've seen from Finn, and also assuming that we're going for the win here, that at all costs. Um, hmm, I would probably say I'll put myself at quarterback, put Finn back at his running back, and the wide receiver would give. I would give Squid the start and see how we go. Only because, as we all know, Squid is as the more active player. I think I could probably mix things up better on defensively with Squid, because I would probably trust Squid to be more dynamic in different scenarios. Intox is great at blitz and great at everything. I'm just not sure he's as exposed to different defensive schemes as much as Squid has been.
Man, I can't believe you're gonna do Todd Brady dirty like that. But
Nah, Tom
I under
Brady's still the GOAT.
I understand where you're coming from. This will lead into a follow-on question. Um, Obviously, Blue Squid and Intox are both great at various different parts of the game. But if you only had one of them, so I'm gonna make this like a two-part question. If your team was only you, Finn, and Intox, how do you think your um, how do you think your season would turn out? And then if your team was only you, um, Finn, and Squid, how do you think your team would turn out throughout the season? So like if you like had two separate teams, only having Squid or only having Intox, what do you think your game plans and seasons would look like?
Is Finn still a QB?
For the scenario, yes.
I think our record would have been the same. I don't think were our losses? Our losses was against the TTT twice. I can't remember if Intox played the full game like in the week 3 or not. I think he did though. So yeah, no, I think the records would have been the same. Um, uh, yeah, our records would have been the same. I mean, those were the lineups we played against TTT in both game 1 and 2. We used Squid and we used Intox. Um, I don't think they were. I don't think either of them were the reason why we lost, anyways. So, um, and Finn and I are the constant in this scenario, so the records would probably still be the same.
That's fair. I think it's probably also fair to say that maybe you're not that good, and maybe it should have been Intox, Squid, and Finn the whole time.
Yeah, and then hopefully we don't see uh yeah. Oh wait, oh, true. I didn't play that second game. Sorry, my bad. But anyways, I still think it was the same. It would have been the same. However, I will go on record to say that if I was QB and Finn was running back and we used the same lineups against TTT, we would win at least one of those two.
Oh, you
Um,
hear that, Finn?
well, Finn knows. All right, moving on to. Wait, are you done your question there?
Yeah, that's all done with that question.
All right. My second question would be, um, assuming the season would be, or the competition would be as it is this season, and you were still the captain from last season, and you had your initial team from last season, you would have CJ and you would have Irish. Now, assuming they're both active and at their peak performance, and your quarterback, by the way, what do you think your record would have been relative to this season?
So I think we might have been in a similar boat, probably around 2 to 3 wins. I just don't have consistent enough QB play. I think I've been getting a little bit better week by week. But I think I'd be able to throw the ball up to CJ. I think he'd be able to make some good plays. I think Irish would be reliable in short games and icons. And then obviously on defense, CJ's cover is good. I'm serviceable at coverage, and um, Irish would be always tearing it up at blitz. This is assuming we're all super active and stuff too. Um, and then if we kept playing, we would probably build a synergy a little bit better. because something I noticed from season one is that if you don't play consistent lineups, you start to lose some chemistry, some synergy, um, and you'll end up falling a little bit flat on various plays, whether they're offense or defense. But yeah, I think ultimately would have ended up kind of in a similar boat as the Huevos, be like 2 to 3 wins and be competitive, but not quite finishing at the end of the game.
Cool. Sounds like you have yourself at the middle to middle of the end of the pack in the standings. But you would still be competitive like you were last season. Just it'll basically come down to your own QB play, basically.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Fair enough.
All right. I can ask a question if you are ready for one.
I'm always ready.
All right, so this is the question for the potential offensive player of the year, CJ, because we were just talking about a little bit. Um, what if CJ played with a more consistent QB all year? Do you think his stats would have been like crazy unbeatable and like record setting, unable to be surmountable in future seasons? Or do you think he kind of got lucky and managed to just have some balls go his way and game plan was just, he got he got open just slightly more often and took advantage of that of those open scenarios?
That's a good question. If I'm being completely honest, though, I think if he had a quarterback like Irv or myself or even Finn Ben Priz, I think his targets would be probably be more even, meaning that I think if I were to take a wild guess, I think he probably gets at least 80% of his catch, like the split between him and the running back, right? It would probably be 80-20 is my guess. So I think his stats would probably actually take a dip if it came to a more quarterback like that. And I think that his QBs this season in Jeff and Dan actually probably put him in more in favor of it because obviously we know Jeff was going to throw it to CJ, 9 out of 10 times, without even question, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's just
but
Jeff.
but with Dan, I think Dan's playbook. I wouldn't say Dan's playbook is favored to wide receiver, but I do think that the moment Dan stepped up to play for that team, CJ being the more motivated and active player, he fed him the ball, and maybe even because CJ had a shot at the offensive player of the year, maybe that's also why it favored play calls to his side, right? So assuming that they start off a season, let's just say that if he was on Irv's team this year throughout the whole season as the wide receiver, I think his stats would have looked the way it has been for Turkey and Sheep and Portis, just even across the board.
So what you're saying is that Irv doesn't feed his team.
Mm, no, I'm saying he fits. I'm saying he feeds his team evenly across the board. It's not
Yeah, no,
favored
I
to
gotcha.
one another, and that's not a knock on CJ or anything like that. I think at the end of the day, in the way that Blitz works is it depends on your QB's play calls, right? The more interesting stat I would love to know is jump balls that CJ has done, that Wick has done, that Dux has done, that Tony has done, and whoever else wants to put their names in this conversation. Those would be more interesting than to me than the regular wide receiver receiving yard stats.
Oh, I totally agree. And then the other part of that is also like not just jump balls, but like route running and knowing how and when to get open. That's a really hard thing to track and monitor. But some wide receivers, even running backs too, obviously, just know how to get open depending on what they see from the coverage. That's the
Hmm.
other part of it that's just really hard to track.
Yeah, and
But I, oh, sorry, go ahead.
just to add to your final note there was, in addition to jump balls, also like how many like count how many QB late passes there were, how many of those became incompletes, how many of them became catches, and how many of them became interceptions for the quarterback, right? Because we're not tracking any of those right now.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. And then the last thing I just want to comment on with regards to my question, CJ obviously earned the right to possibly be Offensive Player of the Year. He's played awesomely. His stats are crazy. He's done great, and we'll see if he and others can manage to have the same productivity in future seasons.
Yes, sir. And good luck to all the nominees for the Offensive Player of the Year. Um, my final question for you today, Lem, is what do you think about reducing the play clock by 10 seconds, blitz game seconds? So I believe right now, and I did time it before, I think it was around 40 seconds for each play, game clock wise. Um, what do you think that 10-second reduction would do to certain teams? And do you think we would see, mm, I guess, will we see more possessions? Will we see more delay of games? Do you think we'll see less average time of possession per drive? Like, just curious, what do you think that change would do to the overall league play?
I think it would uh, I think it would limit the the capability to milk. Um, so that's one thing. You would have to. I think there'd be way more delay of games because like I think a lot of people look at the play clock and they say, "Oh, someone's like milking and they're milking whatever." But like I know a lot of teams like actually talk during their breaks to try to figure out what they want to do, how they want to approach the next play. And you would lose that um, opportunity for discussion if you did that. Um, if you reduce the clock, you'd also be limiting the capability of newer QBs that are trying to get their feet under them. Um, you maybe in this scenario it can only be in like a vet league style of play and not quite in a pub. I think it would be too uh, it'd be too much of a disadvantage to get past. Even if like if you throw a 90-yard bomb too, and you need to come back to the ball, you would have a delay of game. You wouldn't be able to make the play clock in time because it's already tight now with the current play clock. So I think
Right.
overall, like in theory, it's a good idea, but in practice, I think it would hinder the game.
Right. Those are fair points, actually. I do really acknowledge the last one about the turnovers and then having to race back to the other side. When I don't know if there could be conditions to, to alter those, but the other point you made, I think, could be solved between for the new players, anyways. Could be solved maybe by like a toggle between pregame, like do we want to let 45 seconds play clock or 30 seconds play clock, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But those are things that will will be decided by the game developers. But yeah, that was my last question. When you want, I'm sorry, Lem, you want to hit me up with your last question?
Um, yeah, I think this is a kind of topic that is productive for defensive discussions. So, we talk about sacks and like last night's game with the Huevos versus the East Coast Flying Spiders had a ton of sacks from me and Cheeky. But we've talked about this in the past. How impactful are sacks in your eyes? So sometimes it seems like they're just like a minor inconvenience, and QBs can still drive down the field. And at the end of the day, you'd rather get like one interception than have like a million sacks. So just want to understand how impactful sacks might be in your eyes.
Oh, they're huge. They definitely changed the game, but at the same time, certain QBs could, if I take a 1, 2 yard sack, certain QBs are able to overcome that with relative ease, right? Because it's just, just another down. But if you set us back like 5 yards or more, like that's a different scenario, right? And also like if you're getting those big sacks or sacks or even the minimal sacks on like second and third down, creating like a third or fourth and long, those are the ones that I find uh, more of a issue or more of a problem for the offense versus like your first down, your second down stats. I mean, it's first down or second down sacks, right? Like, a good example is yourself. Last night, you on one drive in particular, you set Irv back almost 15 yards with two or three consecutive sacks, right? That put him down 4th and long, and then what did Irv do? He gave us the first punt of the season, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That was all affected because of you, essentially, right? So you definitely had a huge play there, and that is where sacks are super critical. But then, there's another game this season. Um, I can't remember the team off the top of my head, but Finn was sacked, constantly. I think he got sacked like nine times that game. It could have been like the first game. I know Turk sacked him the first game in game one, but there was another team that sacked him another 9 times, and that didn't phase Finn. You know what I mean? And that didn't phase
Yeah.
our offense either. I know I had games like that last season where that didn't phase me as well. So those are where when as a QB we could accept those sacks and move on. As long as we keep moving the change, those previous sacks goes obsolete. But then when you do those consecutive sacks that you did last night, that's when I guess those are the ones that are much more impactful and the ones that really change the game.
Yeah, so kind of just to play it back, if you do like one sack every drive, that's not too many yards lost. It's just like kind of run of the mill. You can get your first down kind of easy peasy. But if you just start stacking those up, um, then you might actually be impacting the game.
Yeah, and same with Cheeky One, right? Cheeky One last night at times I think sacked Smith consecutively on any given first down chain, and that really puts Smith in a more difficult position, right? And I think those are ultimately the ones that cause those 4th down turnovers that Smith, like, not just the interceptions, but like the actual 4th down on with turnovers. Those are all pretty much set up by Cheeky One, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, and Jikiwan, crazy blitz. Good job last night.
Yeah. Um, well, I guess this was it for our very first episode of, Lem, we need a title of this. uh,
Um, hmm. We gotta work on it. I can't come up with one on the fly.
no problem. But yeah, it's been fun. It's actually been longer than we anticipated. We're at the 27-minute mark right now. But
27 fucking minutes. Oh, I just swore. Sorry, children.
sorry, Jeff's children. Um, but all right, yeah, this was fun, Lem. I hope to do this again. Any last words or thoughts you have as we wrap this episode up?
Uh, no, I just want to say, I look forward to doing this with you, and I look forward to getting some people in here, and we can ask more pointed questions to more specific people. And if anyone is interested out there, feel free to reach out to us, and we can have you on for an episode of To Be Determined, the name of the show.
All right, awesome. All right,
All right, take care.
see ya.